What's going on, fam? Welcome back to the Boot Report. This is episode 9. In today's episode, we are going to go over some absolutely insane pairs of football boots. Just played in them. Performance breakdown special for today. We have a brand new boot in the shop, which I'm very excited for. And we're going to go over all of the weekly releases and answer your questions. Let's jump straight into section 1, the weekly news. I am building out a community mentorship and coaching community, basically, or platform. And if you're interested, I know I mentioned it on my Instagram, no payment or anything right now. I just want to know if you're interested. So if you're watching this and you're like, ooh, I want to get coached by a former pro and help with in-season session planning, off-season session planning, mental performance coaching, exclusive Q&As, product, like exclusive discount codes, special connections for boots and product acquisition, and of course, community. This community is not going to be for casual players. So this will be probably somewhat of an application process because I want to be working with pro aspirational, right? I want to be working with guys who are hungry and who are young, and guys and gals who are young and hungry and ready to get after it. And that's what I love to do. And obviously I love my boot stuff, but I really love working with young and super, super aggressively aspirational players. So if you're interested, and again, all you're doing is putting your name down as like hey, raise your hand, I'm interested at some point, I would like more information. You can go to noahcavanaugh.com/pro blueprint. That is the name of the program. So it'll be the Pro Blueprint community. And yeah, so feel free to go there. I'm really excited about it. I would love to start working with some of you guys and help you guys achieve the very best out of yourselves and out of your teams. So all right, so next we move on to latest colorway drops. So there was some really cool stuff. We got finally, as of, I think yesterday, as of filming of this video, the 30th anniversary, celebrating 30th anniversary of Air Max with the Vapor 16 and Air Max 95s, the blackout edition. So we leaked all the great photos of them last week. But this week we got Vinny Jr., and he's sort of the lead or the head of this particular Air Max 95 collab, which is pretty cool. So Mbappe and Cole Palmer seem to sort of lead the black, gray, and electric yellow one. Vinny seems to be doing this more 30th anniversary blackout edition. I would imagine that Vinny's probably also going to do the whiteout model that we'll get in the next couple weeks. But we got that one. Soccer.com and Puma also launched the Sound Strike Ultra Carbon 5. This is like the 5th Ultra Carbon special edition that we've gotten in the last 3 months, and I'm a little bit like, okay, it's fine. It's yellow. It doesn't look all that great. In my opinion, it's better than what was the one that they had a couple weeks ago? The Porsche one. I think it's better than oh no, that was a King. What am I talking about? Well, it was better than that one anyway. I think I don't think it touches the Miami special edition F1 version, and I don't think it touches the Japan F1 special edition. So nice job by soccer.com, I suppose, but it's sort of a meh thing. I don't think they'll sell very well. So we got those. We also got the Leather F50 Remake, which was this boot, which we'll talk about in just a minute. And then we got its counterpart, I guess, which was a normal regular edition F50, but in the reverse colorway. So the yellow base with the black stripes. So only a couple colorway drops, and all of them were sort of limited or special edition, which is cool. In terms of leak releases for this week, I have a hands-on video with the Phantom 360, which I want to show you guys. I will throw that one up on screen as I am talking. It's black, blue, and orange, or like a red color, reddy orange color. I don't know if this is actually going to be the launch colorway. I kind of hope it isn't, because the colorway doesn't look all that great, but I'm hoping they go for something really clean. And based on what the sole plate is, it is definitely Cyclone 360 sort of remastered with some conical studs, which is good. So we're moving in the right direction, which is great, but it still looks like it has that kind of circular, I don't have, do I have a GX2 around? Oh, it's up there. But anyway, the circular like cyclone section of that stud pattern in the forefoot still has that, which looks really annoying. But per my predictions, is much more closely design elements from Phantom GX1 with that wavy kind of cyclone curvy pattern and actual 3D sort of arcs on the upper from the GX2. So it looks like kind of a combination of the two of them, which I'm not really mad about. I just hope they make it a little bit more comfortable in the forefoot for those players who really like wide-footed football boots. But I think the GX1, they went a little too pointed on the toe box area. It doesn't affect me at all, but I know the cardinal complaint that I got for the majority of you guys watching this was, or for those of you who wear GX, is like, I wish I could wear GX, but it's just too pointed in the toe box area. So I am hoping that they fix that, and hoping that they just make it a little bit wider if that's possible. So that's the Phantom 360 video. And then we also saw, this was really cool. Soccer Bible put up a post of the boots only summer hashtag that's been sort of trending recently. It was started by a fellow creator who I think lives in Texas somewhere, and he went super, super viral for wearing Predators on like a date night. And then that was like 6 months ago now, probably. And he's since capitalized, obviously, on that, including like a special edition Predator Mania remake that they made him with like a dress shoe bottom, which is really cool. I'll put all of his information up on screen, but he's the times that I've messaged back and forth with him have been super cool. He seems like a great guy. I don't know him personally, but anyway, so he sort of started this trend, and then the OG F50 Tunit in like a bright pink colorway, Adidas has sort of been playing with, this is like a leak obviously, but they're sort of playing with like this walkable boot, or walkable cleat they're calling it. And it's essentially taking a boot like this and putting like a clear plastic sort of something on the bottom so that you can walk like a normal shoe, but you can still see the studs and stuff, just to make it a little bit more comfortable for walking around. Low key, that's a business that I almost started recently, is like just a product that's like, you buy your size in boots, and then you get this like ability to walk around as like street style shoes, but with your boots. That would be kind of cool, I think. And it would definitely take advantage of, this boots only summer trend. So that's really cool, but only 2 boot leak releases this week. Everything else that I've seen, is just more pictures of stuff that you guys already know about. Section 2, moving on to boot talk. So this is the weekly boot comparison. Thank you for everybody who voted. If I go into my Instagram right now, actually, and I can tell you what the percentages are of the, okay, so I put up basically, hopefully I can pause that, but I basically put up this story, and every Thursday or Friday I put up the story of basically the top voted stuff. I have a whole spreadsheet of all the things that have been recommended in terms of boot comparisons for the week. 38% of you wanted Vapor 16 versus Alpha 2, which is what we're going to be doing. 14% of you want Shadow versus Razor. Alpha 1 versus Alpha 2 got 22%, and GX2 versus Predator got 26%. So by a pretty decent margin, Vapor 16 versus Alpha 2. So let's talk Vapor 16 and Alpha 2. I'm going to grab these 2 pairs of boots. So Vapor 16, here we go. And then I actually have Alpha 2 below me. Amazing, because I took it out to the field today, which we'll get into after this. Okay, so Vapor 16 and Alpha 2, both exceptional products. Well, okay. Let me go through the ranking system, and then we'll talk about this. So we're going weekly boot comparison: sole plate, upper, heel, comfort, performance, design, lace area, and X factor. Those are our 8 categories of analysis. So really quick rundown. Alpha 2 is a synthetic 5-layer upper with Zero Glide, which is a anti-slip texture all around the inside. You've got a standard U-throat tongue, nice and deep lacing system, basically triangular studs, if you will, like triangle star studs in the same configuration as the Morelia Neo 4. So it's basically the same sole plate, just with triangular studs. And then you've got a Carvo insert in here, making for an exceptionally responsive product. Really thin touch on the ball, very nice. Then moving on to the Vapor, you've got kind of I would say the opposite way that you construct a football boot from in the speed category, which is kind of pretty hardcore focused on comfort, with a grip knit and atom knit upper. You have a perforated suede heel padding that's very neutral and kind of open, will fit most people. And then of course you have the air zoom unit with the triangular, or excuse me, not triangular, the chevron studs with some bladed studs in the heel area, and then that 3/4 length air zoom unit that gives one of the more unique sensations underfoot. So first, we're going to talk about sole plate. Now, if we're talking about, I'm going to include the Carvo in this because I think the Carvo is sort of a principal part of the experience of playing in the Alpha, and it very much is sort of part of the sole plate. Now, in terms of which one I think is better, that really is going to come down to personal preference. I am going to give the win to the Vapor, though, because although I do think that this sole plate is my favorite to play in, because I'm not a huge fan of the Air Zoom, I just don't think it does all that much, and I feel less connected to the ball when I do any sort of rolling on it, and less connected to the ground. I do think Air Zoom wins because it's a more unique overall aspect of the boot. And so because of that, the Air Zoom sole plate is going to win. I also think it's a much more aggressive and traditional stud pattern for a speed boot. Like if you're going to play on an FG surface, you're going to get great traction for both of these, but you're going to notice the difference in how aggressive these studs are. They're longer than the Alpha, and they're a lot more speed focused, whereas the Alpha is aggressive but still kind of has that Mizuno, we got to be able to sort of do everything kind of vibe, which I totally respect. But in terms of a comparison, the Air Zoom unit wins for me. Now moving on to the upper. This is going to be, I think this is going to split opinions pretty substantially because I think both uppers are very good, but they're very different. So the Alpha upper is obviously a synthetic. It's not going to stretch, but it will mold. So it will sort of shape around your foot. It's just not going to stretch really at all. It is synthetic. Different colorways have different kinds of texturing to them. So this one, the launch colorway, so kind of the rainbow trout colorway or rainbow salmon colorway, if you want to call it that, is going to be it's going to have a little bit more grip to it, especially in the dry weather conditions. Whereas if we look at other colorways like this, and the blackout, and also some of the other colors that we've already got from the Alpha 2 now, with that Buzz Lightyear colorway and then the silver and gold ones, some of them are a matte finish, and when they're like this, when they're a matte finish, the upper is actually a little bit softer and a little bit more pliable, and it's got no grip elements because it's that matte sort of finish, whereas the glossy one seems to put a reasonably more amount of structure to the upper, and then it's got that sort of glossy, sticky finish to it. Not quite as, it's not waxy like the grip knit, but it is kind of sticky a little bit, especially, you'll notice it especially in dry conditions. Whereas this one is a lot more flexible, it's a lot more comfortable, and you've got the grip element across the entirety of the upper. So if I'm gonna call, which upper do I think is a better speed boot, I honestly think it's a tie. I think it just is going to depend on what you like. I think both, if you're really into lockdown, you have to go for the Alpha. If you really want the most comfortable speed boot, the Vapor is pretty hard to beat, in my opinion. So I'm going to give the tie to both of those. Now moving on to the heel. This is a pretty no-brainer for me. So those are the two heel areas. If you know me, you already know which one I'm going to pick, and it's going to be the Alpha. Number one, Zero Glide is an incredible technology, but the Alpha also has a much more focused heel area that, oh, by the way, if you have a wider heel, that's totally fine. It's going to stretch and mold. But the initial shape of it isn't super neutral like this, this can kind of get really annoying because as you break the boots in, then the heel becomes a little bit more open and kind of gapey and gross, and I get blood blisters on the inside and the outside on the bottom of my heel area because there's that extra dead space. Whereas in this one, it's like you are not slipping anywhere inside this football boot, and that's thanks to this incredible heel area. So the heel area easily goes to the Alpha. From a comfort perspective, obviously there's going to be those of you watching this who fit perfectly in one boot or perfectly in the other boot. I totally understand that. But from a general comfort perspective, it's not even a question. The grip knit and atom knit upper, one piece kind of knit construction, feels like a sock. It performs like a sock, and the comfort is ridiculous out of the box. It just instantaneously molds to your foot, and there's really nothing else you can say about it. Both boots fit me really well, but I'm going to pick this for comfort all day long just because that's what it feels like. Now, from a performance perspective, again, both are kind of the upper echelon of speed boots. I do think the Vapor, since a couple generations ago, has gotten less and less focused. I think Vapor 14 was very good and very focused. I think Vapor 15 was probably one of the more focused speed boots we've gotten in a really long time from Nike. And then 16 kind of went down. So it's not as focused as it used to be. They kind of went more of the generalist. It's going to be really comfortable, but it's also going to perform really well, no doubt. But there is not a question in my mind. And this is why the Alpha for me is probably, actually, it's not even probably, it is objectively the best speed boot on the market, bar none. There's nothing better than this from an overall objective perspective. So as a speed boot, right? So not necessarily in this boot comparison, but as a speed boot, nothing beats the performance of the Alpha 2 if you really break it down, so long as you fit in it, obviously, right? So from a design perspective, I think this is a really bad example of the Alpha because I don't think this is a very pretty colorway. It's cool, it's interesting. And obviously this has the conical stud pattern, so it's a little bit less of a, I don't know, it's a little bit less of a obvious one. I wish I had either the silver one or the Buzz Lightyear one. This is my personal opinion, with the current color pattern of the Vapor with this huge air on the back of it, I honestly think the design of the Mizuno Alpha is better looking. I know that's crazy because the Vapor is one of the most beautiful football boots of all time. It's iconic, it's timeless. You look at a boot and you say, that's a Vapor. I know it's a Vapor because it's got that design identity and language. But for me, the Alpha just has that super sleek, low profile, kind of painted on your foot look, especially when it's on the feet of pros. And I think it just looks exceptional. Obviously, as I said, this colorway, not huge on it, not my favorite. But even with the other sole plate, this, like the sleekness of this color, the running bird logo, how it runs from like the tip of the toe all the way back, it just looks so sleek and so good. And I love these little ridges from the kind of the padded cage on the inside of it. I think that's so cool. So for me, the design actually goes to the Alpha. I think you could argue that the Vapor is an iconic design. I just think with this huge air in the back, it just doesn't do me. It doesn't, I don't know. It's not that great. And I think the swoosh on the lateral side needs to be redone. Lacing area, for me, this is a pretty easy one. I like the standalone U-throat tongue. I think it gives more people more option and adjustability. And it's also a much wider and deeper lacing system per kind of Mizuno DNA, I guess. Not the actual DNA of Mizuno, but like, you know, get what I'm saying. Whereas this one with the kind of monosock construction with the Flyknit works really well. I love the way this feels, but just from an adjustability standpoint, I think standard U-throat tongue always is going to win in terms of just functionality and overall enjoyment of playing. Now moving on to the X Factor. This was probably the hardest for me, and I might actually change the answer that I had originally writ in my show notes. Ooh, okay, so the X Factor of the Vapor is obviously the Air Zoom, right? You can't call anything else on here special because the GX exists. If the GX didn't exist, or the GX, the Phantom series wasn't grip knit, it was something else, or maybe it was a synthetic, or maybe we were, closer to like a Phantom Ultra or a Hyper Venom 3 or something like that, or even Phantom Venom that had like synthetics on it, this would be really interesting because of the grip knit and stuff. But because the GX exists, this isn't really that special anymore, but outside of the Air Zoom, right? That's a very unique thing. That being said, I think the X Factor has to go to the Alpha as well, because I just think the combination and the unbelievable focus on detail on this boot is really hard to argue with when you try it on. People will say, I'm only Vapor, I'm only F50, I'm whatever. As soon as there are so many people I have heard that try an Alpha, or they try a Mizuno leather product and they go, I can't believe I didn't try this early on. And it shows. The products are incredible. And that's just, there are things about it that aren't perfect, of course, but as are any, no boot's perfect. But this as a boot is an objective monster when it comes to performance and just the X Factor, and it feels crazy. The zero glide on every inch of the interior of this boot, you literally are so locked in. It is like an F1 car. Like you're so strapped in, and you turn, your body turns, the boots go with you. Like it is unbelievable compared to this one, which, yes, a little bit more comfortable. Love the grip. Absolutely love the grip. But it's got to be for the Alpha. So the Wednesday boot comparison winner is the Alpha 2 for very obvious reasons. It is an absolute monster of a football boot. It's a boot that I absolutely love playing in, and that's no surprise. We'll get to this one as well, the limited version. Okay, hashtag Wear Your Boot Wednesday winner. You too can submit your Wear Your Boots Wednesday to Instagram Wednesday, whenever it is Wednesday, your time. Tag me at noah.cavanaugh on Instagram. The boots have to be on your feet. I don't care if it's indoors or outdoors, preferably outdoors, because then you're actually playing. And with the hashtag Wear Your Boots Wednesday, this week's winner goes to an unbelievable pair of Adidas Predator Instinct Crazy Lights. Yes, you heard me correctly. An insanely rare pair of football boots from Texas Cleat Collector. Good homie of mine. Just a quick rundown. So the Adidas Predator Instinct Crazy Light was 3 ounces lighter, almost 3 ounces lighter than the normal version. Sprint frame traction from the F50 line, and the hybrid touch upper. Well, the regular Instinct had hybrid touch as well, but this was like a much thinner hybrid touch that is actually a lot similar to the hybrid touch from, I guess this one. It would have been very close to this messy F50 one. So not quite as thin as the F50 hybrid touch from that era, but it was closer to this one. And then it had those lethal zone rubber elements all over the upper, which was very, very cool. So Texas Cleat Collector, Justin, unbelievable pair of boots. That was easily the winner for this week. It was so cool. A lot of you submitted. I saw some Morelia DNA. What else did we get? Saw some GXs. We saw some F50s. So an awesome array of boots, but the Predator Instinct Crazy Lights are a nuts shout. Those are so cool. Okay, moving on to performance breakdown. So this is probably what you guys are here for. I have 4 pairs of boots right here that I literally today just got done doing the play tests of. We have the 3 Mizuno models, and then I want to talk about kind of 2 in particular. Well, really quickly, because we went over the Alpha earlier. I don't want to spoil all of what I said in my videos, but for those of you who watch the podcast on a regular basis, I'll give you just a quick rundown of performance, how they fit, and all that stuff. Alpha 2 with the Morelia Neo 4 sole plate performs very, very well, just as you'd expect. You feel a little bit higher up because the Alpha 2 sole plate is so kind of flat and thin, and it's very grounded, whereas this one feels a lot more kind of like it's more anatomical. It's more of like it feels more like a running shoe, not really, but like kind of more like the Asics DS Lite X55 sole plate, if that makes sense. So it also is narrower. So it's narrower enough that I needed to take the boots off. And so it fits really well. The upper of this particular blackout colorway feels a lot softer than the rainbow trout colorway that I have down on the floor. So it's sort of this weird combination of like the initial shape of the boot is narrower because of the sole plate. This sole plate is narrower than the Alpha 2 sole plate. So it still performs incredibly well, but it's a little more on the narrow side. So you just have to be careful of that. But I think, from a performance perspective, is it super special? Not really, because the AG model of the Alpha exists. And because this sole plate doesn't have carvo in it, neither does the AG model, it's like, okay, well, I'd just probably buy the AG. So that's why I think a lot of people, I don't like that people were trying to dunk on this boot, because I actually love it. I think it's really exceptional. And I love conical studs. This is one of my favorite stud patterns on the market. And so it's like, it's not super special, but I don't think it deserves all the crap that people have been giving it, that are like, it's pointless. It's like, there's no reason for it. You've just ruined no. It's still an incredible football boot. So yeah. So great stuff there. This pair of football boots is God tier. I don't know what else to say. The one thing I will say, though, because I don't want to ruin too much of what I said in the video. So this is a God tier football boot, hands down. It is so incredibly fun to play in, even with the AG sole plate. I will be doing a full video breakdown of how to put holes in your boots so that you can have an extra runner's knot. And I will use this boot and probably one or two other ones. I know I've talked about it a couple times now, but I'm going to get around to that. I've just been filming so many reviews. So that one, incredible. You have to watch that video because I just lit up when I was wearing it. I was just like so happy. It's one of the only boots in the last couple of years that I've stepped in, and there's been a lot of really good boots, but there's only a few boots, like maybe a handful, like maybe 4, that I step in and I go, I just want to go out and play in these. Like they make me want to go play football. And that's just awesome. So now moving on to these two, which I think are going to be the most hyped up. Now, really quick tech breakdown of this one. Obviously, Morelia Neo 4 Beta Upper, Alpha 2 sole plate with the Carvo and everything. Interesting feature though, so on this one, they obviously have the Zero Glide all throughout the upper, but they actually didn't use the Zero Glide insole or removable sock liner, which they have Zero Glide in on the normal Alpha. But they switched the Alpha sole plate over here and still didn't use Zero Glide on the removable sock liner. So I'm not sure whether that was like a cost-cutting thing or what. It doesn't really change the sensation all that much, although I'm sure it would if you put the Zero Glide insole in here. But this is a phenomenal football boot. I think this particular model, the hype is proper for this. Like I think it's deserved. This boot, the major complaint I have with this boot is that the heel area isn't where it should be. The Alpha heel area is a lot better. The Morelia 2 heel area even is a lot better. The Morelia DNA heel area is what they should have done with this, because that heel area, where are we? Oh, here we go. I know this is last generation model, but heel area, see that? So it's very, very nice. It's got the suede liner. It's really open. If they put that heel area on this boot, oh my God, you would have created an absolute monster. However, despite that, which is, again, my really only complaint, this is going to be too aggressive, I think, for a lot of people. But for the person who wants the leather upper and wants the most aggressive traction, this is probably one of the greatest leather football boots ever created. It is remarkable how good it is. Everyone knows that the Alpha on its own is an amazing football boot. Everyone knows the Morelia Neo 4 Beta is one of the best overall football boots on the market, period. You put those two things together and you've created an absolute weapon of a football boot. So I'll leave it there. Then we have the F50 Leather. The F50 Leather. All I'm going to say about this boot, so that you guys can go check out the rest of my thoughts in my playtest video, review and playtest video. This is one of 3 perfect remakes. There's only 3, in my opinion. Maybe 4, if you argue like one of the manias. This one, the white F50s that are leather, and it's not really a remake. You can't really count the Rotero. So that's just a special edition of a normal boot. So this one, the leather. Oh, what am I talking about? Yes, the Hybrid Touch. The Hybrid Touch ones. So the 2 that are right here. This is insane. Today's filming day was absolutely nuts. It was probably the best day of filming I've had in a long time. Because I don't know if you know this. You probably don't. But as with most things, not every day is super enjoyable, right? There are days where I'm like, I really couldn't be bothered. There was a day last week where I reviewed 4 pairs of football boots, 2 Enkai products, which is an Indonesian brand, and I reviewed 2, what are they called? That's going to bug me. Let me find out. Enkai products and Definitive products, which I think is Indonesia as well. Those were 4 pairs of football boots that I got done filming, and I was like, today was not enjoyable for me because none of those products were good, and they were just like, it makes me be like, I don't really want to release those videos, because in the videos I'm just like, these are fucking shit, like these suck. And so it's one of those things, right? You gotta, it ebbs and flows, but I am so grateful for today, because today I got to review 4 of the best boots of the year, right? Like, it's pretty simple, amazing. Speaking of insane Mizuno boots, so the new in the shop. So this is the section where we talk about, I give you a hint and a sneak peek of, oh, by the way, another innovation pack. But this one is special because most of you probably will never be able to get your hands on a pair, which is a bummer. I'm not saying that as a weird thing. But these are a Japan exclusive. These are the Mizuno Morelia Monarcida Neos. So these are, technically speaking, the takedown of the Morelia Neo 4 non-beta. Standard U-throat tongue, really nice heel area, the Morelia Neo 4 beta sole plate, and this one is part of the innovation pack. So they actually did Wagyu leather on this one as well, did the top end stud pattern on it, and I am really, really, really looking forward to, if I can get these back in the bag. There we go. Really looking forward to getting those on feet, because I think these are going to be another amazing pair of football boots to review. So that review will be probably filmed next week, and then won't probably come out for another 2 weeks after that, because we've got a ton of content. And unless I'm going to start pushing Kelvin to the absolute max with edits and go 3 videos a week, which would be nuts. I'm sure we could do it at some time, but he obviously has to take the time on the edits, because it's very intensive, right? So that's new in the shop. But what else is coming in the next little bit? I don't think I have very much else coming in the next little bit. I've got some connections that I want to explore with Athleta. I think that would be cool. The new Athleta boots just came out a couple weeks ago, so I would love to review those. There's, what else did I see? I'm not going to do the Air Maxes. Those are just annoying. What's funny is this is sort of random and off topic, but the Air Max Superflies that Mbappe was wearing, the white with they're like white, gray, dark gray, black with the Volt accents. They still have my size at Ultra. Like, they aren't selling very well, which is kind of funny, because they're doing these like cross sneaker collabs at Nike. No one gives a shit about them. And then Adidas is like, boom, special edition. And everybody just absolutely, yeah, they're turned on by it. I'll put it that way. So anyway, super, super cool. All right, so let's jump into section 3, market report. Now, this market report is brought to you by the microphone on the camera. No, I'm kidding. Okay. I'm all over the place right now. Drink of water. All right, so let's jump into resale market trends. So I'm really interested because we've had a little bit of a break in some of the launches, right? There's not as many Pred coming out. Adidas hasn't dropped in a couple weeks, which is amazing. Puma seems to be dropping these random colorways of the special edition carbons, but other than that, they're pretty quiet at the minute. Nike's been pretty quiet at the minute, and the last couple weeks have sort of slowed down a lot of the resellers who had basically become like tertiary market soccer stores, and there wasn't as many special fun retro boots coming out on the Instagram resale market, which is of course where I spend a lot of my time looking through and, observing market trends. So it's really been cool, and you'll see this in just a second with the notable boots resurfacing, but it's cool to see some really incredible pairs starting to get put back on the market now that there's not as much volume of the normal kind of the day-to-day stuff, if you will, the regular releases that, if I'm a boot dealer and I'm sitting on, let's say this was, I was going to sell all this stuff. This was like boots for sale, not like my personal collection. And I had an in with the Adidas factory somewhere, and I got stock of like, 15 pairs of Jude Bellinghams, and I could sell them for $50 less than retail. Of course, I'm going to put those up when they're hyped up and they first drop, as opposed to trying to sell the limited stuff, because the limited stuff obviously ages well, right? Like you're going to continue to see a jump in price with certain boots over time. So it's cool to see some of the better stuff coming out on the resale market now that the normal edition boots are sort of calming down a little bit, which is awesome. And I really appreciate that from the resale market. We also have seen already, which is absolutely, it's kind of gross, but it's, it's the nature of the beast, some unbelievably high markups on F50 Leather and which one? Yeah, these two. So the Morelia Neo 4 with the Alpha sole plate, and then the F50. I would imagine that's not going to last I think the curve of the F50 will be like, if this is resale, like this is price, this is your x-axis is time. It's going to be like, here's retail, okay, time, spike, and then it's going to kind of dip and dip and dip, and then it's going to be a little bit higher than retail, right? It'll kind of come back down a little bit towards retail. It'll be higher than retail. They retailed for $300, I think, and they'll probably resell for, they'll sort of plateau at like $350 probably, $350, $375. Whereas these ones, I think, are going to hit their ceiling and plateau probably around like $450, $500. Because they're limited. Yes, they will do probably restocks of them. So if they end up doing another drop, or they do that pair in a different colorway, okay, then fair enough. We'll see that figure drop. But I think for right now, I think these ones are going to see some pretty significant resale prices, because they're more, even though this is an incredible pair of football boots and everybody loves the nostalgia of the F50, it's not as special, in my opinion, as something like this that's very like performance oriented. That's just my opinion, but I could be totally off on that, but that's what I think is going to happen. So that's resale market trends. Now moving on, as I mentioned before, the notable boots resurfacing. So we had 4 from this week that I absolutely had to share with you guys, and they are some pretty banger boots. So first we have Boots Plug, who I've actually worked with before. I've worked with 3 out of 4 of these actually. Boots Plug did this pair. Surely he's selling these for like thousands of dollars. Like, I don't think anybody should go and buy those. Or if you are a collector and an R9 enthusiast, go for it. A match worn, when he was at Inter, a pair of match worn R9 Mercurial Vapors from 1998. Like, ridiculous pair. These are a super special pair of football boots. So I would be surprised if any of you buy them. Send me some photos and I will shout you out in the podcast and in a video. Like, they are pretty special. They're super, super special. Classic Boots PL put a pair of leather Adidas X15.1s up in that really bright red, orange, and black colorway. Those are really cool. I would say out of the 4, those are probably my least favorite, but I do think they're really unique. And I wanted to sort of build on the hype of the F50 leather with another sort of Adidas speed boot in leather, which is really cool. Dutch Boot Cleat Collector, wow, that was a double entendre, at Dutch Boot Collector, put up the pair of Mizuno Rebula Cup 3s in white, red, and blue that I used to own. And I'll put a thumbnail up on screen, but I had those boots. I trained in them. I loved them. Ended up selling them, I think, when I moved to Michigan, because I was using some other pair of boots at the time. Anyway, Morelia or Rebula Cup 3s, absolutely amazing. They're also in my size, so I may hit that dude up and see if I can get those. Then we have RF boots with a stunning pair of Magista Ober 1s in the camo pack, which is one of my favorite Magista Ober colorways. They are so cool. They're way too big for me, but RF boots coming in with another banger. RF boots has been on the notable boots resurfacing like almost every week, which is crazy. Okay, so limited edition releases for the week. We obviously got, and a little bit of commentary here, we got obviously the leather F50. We got the Air Max 95 Vapor, which I probably won't get unless I get them for free. As I said, special edition, these like sneaker collabs I'm not really super enthused about, which is ironic because I have two just from the Air Max 98 pack with that, the orange and the fire orange one and the purple whatever. I'll probably sell those at some point because I just don't really care about them that much. So anyway, those. And then we also got the brother, sister boot, sibling boot to this one, which is the F50 Yellow. Now, this is where the commentary comes in. It is my firm belief that they had a massive opportunity to create something special with this boot, and they totally missed out on an opportunity because this pair of football boots is a 2010 F50 remake with a new and exciting color with the gold. This never existed back in the day. The black, white, and gold never existed. But they did this as like a special edition for, it was either Pro Direct or Soccer.com or something when they did all those F50 remakes, which is dope, by the way. But this is a 1-to-1 upper with the Carbitex insert from the Speedflow, which was the normal speed boot of the time. Why couldn't we have gotten the Speed Frame 360 or Sprint Frame? What is it? Sprint Frame? Yeah, Sprint Frame 360 with this upper in yellow. It makes zero sense to me why they didn't do that. It is a huge missed opportunity because a lot of players loved this upper, the super light upper, and you could have made a boot that was very, very lightweight. And this boot really only is marketed. Okay, there's one of two people that are going to buy this. One is the person who absolutely loves the normal F50 and has that kind of tinge of nostalgia or likes yellow boots. The other person is going to be the person who is like, about the normal F50, or maybe likes the F50, but is obsessed with the yellow 2010 F50 colorway. That's a pretty small market. Whereas these ones, that's why they're going to be so expensive. My guess is you're going to be able, this is my prediction, you're going to be able to find those yellow F50 remakes, meaning the remake colorway, you know what I mean, for less than retail, not too far in the future, because I don't think they're that special. And for a non 1-to-1 remake upper, you might hate me for this. I don't think that colorway looks very good. If it was this upper, fine. Nostalgia, take over. I just don't think it's that cool. I just don't think that's cool. So that's my thing. Stock availability and drops. Two things really quick on this. F50 Leather, instantaneous sellout with a lot of lingering stock of that yellow model, which I just mentioned. And really only a small portion of people are going to get that yellow F50, which is kind of disappointing. I think it should have been something different, obviously. And as I mentioned before, lack of drops in the last few weeks has been really, really cool, I think, for the boot market. Not only, that's a double entendre a little bit. Look at me being creative. Cool in the sense that it's cooled off, right? It's not so many drops all at once. It's hot. Holy shit, what's going on with my brain? It's more just like, okay, it's cooled off. And also, it's also cool. Like, it's dope cool. Like, it's cool, you know? Like, it's awesome, dude. Yeah. Which has been really nice. And it's actually made my life a lot easier because I feel like even though the Mizuno pack was overwhelming and amazing and overwhelming in like such a good way, like it was just like, oh my God, so good. And then the F50s came out. Because there haven't been as many releases, I don't feel like I'm drowning, is what I'm trying to say. I feel like I'm keeping my head above water now in terms of work. All right, section 4, your questions. You too can ask questions by going to noahcavanaugh.com/podcast. You can submit your questions, sign up for the weekly newsletter. That's free, and you'll receive all of the coolest updates over there as well. Let's jump into it. Alex asks, how do you rate the Tiempo Lux compared to other leather boots? Good question. So, Tiempo Lux is a Fly Touch Plus upper that's been stitched in a much more kind of ergonomic and I think better way. It's got the regular Tiempo 10 sole plate. And yes, I left the chrome sticker on there because I'm a G. I just think it looks cool. Great sole plate. Okay upper. Much better than the regular one. But here's the thing. And I mentioned this in my F50 video, not to spoil it. Nike goes, oh, look at this, made in Montebelluna, like, made in Montebelluna Tiempo, yee, we're so special. And Adidas is just like, cue like aggressive dubstep music, like, you know, those like Instagram reels that just like, everyone goes crazy and you have like devil face, like, look what we just did, like, boom, boom. Adidas is just like, we didn't even use K leather. We just used calfskin leather and we just dropped a fat bomb on whatever the hell this was. So if that answers your question, that answers your question. This does not compare to a leather model at all. I don't even care if it's the Gloro 2, like the cheapest Adidas leather boot. Performance-wise, this would beat out the Gloro for sure. Sole plate, upper is a little bit stiffer, so it's a little bit more performance-oriented. And don't get me wrong, I'm sort of totally shitting on this boot, but I'm sort of aiming that at the regular Tiempo. This one is better. It is better, but again, it doesn't hold a candle to natural leather. It just doesn't. And Nike's never going to convince me of that. So yeah, Alex, if you have the Tiempo Lux, that's amazing. I hope it fits you really well. But if you're like, do I buy the Tiempo Lux or do I buy like a leather boot, even something like this, right? It's not even close. It's not even close. Tony asks, what new tech would you like to see in football boots? Ooh, what new tech? What's like new that could be put in football boots? So we've seen air, we've seen carbon, we've seen leather, knit, synthetics. Synthetic is also a very broad term because synthetic simply means it's man-made. So like this is a synthetic and this is a synthetic and they feel completely different, right? So, and technically knit is a synthetic because it's man-made as well. I would love to see, this has sort of been done before and Skechers is probably the closest to doing it now. I would love to see a removable sock liner that's been some, I don't know how they would achieve this, but it would be somehow integrated into the sole plate in a way that, imagine a sole plate that was almost, I'm using terms to make a point here, so don't take this literally, but imagine like a bathtub and a mattress, right? So what if the bathtub was the stud pattern or the outsole, and then the midsole, which is obviously you'd have a midsole in there, but maybe the outsole midsole was sort of combined and it's sort of like a bathtub. And then the removable sock liner was like a mattress and you pushed it in and then that's where you sat down in, or that's where your foot went in. What I'm trying to say, maybe I'll try to draw this and just show you design wise. But what if a brand, without compromising like the closeness you feel with the ground, made like a kind of a cord out stud pattern so that you could put in like a memory foam or like a really, really bouncy, like running race shoe foam insole in there. And so when you turned and made directions, you didn't go anywhere. You weren't slipping around or anything, but it just gave you this like pop bounce that like a lot of race day shoes have. I know that's kind of been done with the Hyperburst Pro for Skechers, but it's not really that noticeable. The Ace 16.1 or Ace 16 Plus or whatever it was, the first laceless boot outside of the Lotto Zero Gravity, that one had boost in it, but it was like pretty thin still, and you didn't really notice it all that much. But that's sort of the tech that I'd be like, ooh, this would really upgrade the underfoot feel of football boots, particularly because so many players are choosing to wear, aggressive stud traction on an AG surface. I think that would be so awesome for foot health and stuff, and just for like, I don't know, you'd feel so springy, and that would be awesome. So that's kind of what I would like to see. Tony, great question. Dakare, I think. Do you think Top has two awesome questions? First question, do you think top level players are moving away from leather cleats, especially with younger stars coming up? Yeah, I do. I think that leather has lost its lust for the younger players, because I think younger players nowadays are so consumed with social media and with marketing and with all of the hype around the new thing and this and that and the other. And it's like, I actually talked about it in this review, and most definitely in this review, which is, if you put on, for those of you youngins out there, if you put on this pair of football boots and I were to tie the laces tight, make sure you got the right sizing and stuff, you could not tell me, I would not believe you at all if you were like, this premium K leather football boot fits shitty and it fits worse than this. No. It's like, buddy, I've been there. I've been the player to walk into a soccer store, try on a Mizuno Morelia when I was young, and then try on the F50 Tunits that were the shittiest boots at the time. And I was like, the F30s are obviously more comfortable, Mom. Come on. Like, Dad, let me get these. And they just roll their eyes. Wait till you grow up. And that's how I feel. So that's why I think modern, younger players are moving to non-leather football boots, which is a bummer. The only caveat to that, I would say, is from an objective performance perspective, you could argue some synthetic boots, as long as they fit the player perfectly, have better performance characteristics than a leather boot sometimes, like a thinner upper, maybe a more responsive upper, all that. So yeah, sure, you could argue that there are some performance benefits, but I think for the majority, I think a lot of it has to do with like, marketing, and it not only are younger players attached to marketing, and so they're only buying into the synthetic boots, but pro players are the ones being paid to do the marketing. And so of course they're going to be wearing the synthetic boots that the big brands want to promote. Easy as. Dakari's second question, if you could play in a certain football boot era at the top level for any club, which era would you choose? I would play for Barcelona between 2008 and 2015, 2008 to 2015. Greatest team of all time. Debatably, the 2009, you could make arguments that the 2009 team that won the Champions League final was the 2009 and the 2011 team in particular was probably the best footballing team that's ever graced this earth. And I don't think you could argue with that. I think that you watch that team play and you're like, what the hell? They ran through everybody. Like no team could touch them. Anyway, that era. So if you wanted me to tighten it down even more, I'd say 08 to 12, 08 to 11, those like 3 years. Great question though. Tormud asks, why do SG boots have metal studs? Why wouldn't replaceable plastic studs achieve the same result? That's also a good question. I'm not sure what the history of steel studs is, other than to say I would imagine that from a durability perspective, if you're playing on soft ground, you have to imagine that the ground has maybe rocks in it, maybe other really hard materials that are like inside of the soft ground, right? Like there are other things that exist under the ground, under the grass. And so this is just me like totally postulating here. I would think that the steel studs not only do a better job at digging into the ground, like you can feel the difference between, I don't have steel studs around here. They're down there. But point being, you on a soft ground surface, this feels like skating, and a soft ground steel stud grips into the ground so efficiently and so fluidly that it's like zoop, right into the ground. And so I think steel studs are not only hard enough, but they're also long enough to basically just grip into the ground. And I also think maybe it also has to do with the adhesiveness with mud. So maybe steel just has like a ability to sort of flake the mud off as you run around. I don't know. That's what I would think, but that's a good question. I'm honestly not super, I'm just postulating here. I cannot pronounce this one either. Pavle, Pavel. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. Cool name though. Should I play for a third division men's team or a second or possibly first division U19 team next season? I turned 17 in July. So you're really young still. However, it depends on how much game time you're going to get. If you're getting recruited for those, I would imagine that the second tier or first tier. Okay, if you're playing for a second division U19 team, just go play for the third division men's team. That's my opinion, because you'll probably get more playing time and you'll be playing with men as opposed to boys. Because the difference between 25 and 19 is a big freaking difference. If you're playing for a first division U19 team, maybe a different story. And that's assuming you're getting equal playing time across all of those. I think it really comes down to where you're going to get the most game minutes, because when you're 17, you don't want to be riding the bench. You do not want to be a bench player at 17. You want to be getting as many game minutes as possible. And the most successful players, I'll use myself as an example. When I was your age, 17 years old, I was 20, but I was in school still. So I wasn't like I couldn't go and play pro because I was still in college. I was 20 years old. I was over in Denmark and I went down a division. I got offered a contract in the second tier of Denmark, and I went down to like a third division team, I think, to play for a first tier men's team. Number one, because the money and the NCAA rules are shitty and all that stuff. But I also knew that I was going to get game minutes every weekend, and I was going to play 90 minutes, and I was going to get confidence up, and I was going to play a lot. It was pretty awesome. And it gets your confidence up. You're playing with real players. You're playing with stronger players, with real men. So that would be I would skew towards play for the men, like as older player, like play with older players who are more mature, unless you're playing for like a first division academy. That's kind of what I would do, especially if you're going to get really good playing time at that first tier academy. That's awesome. John asks, in an era of remakes, what boot from each brand would you want to bring back? Oh, dude. Excellent question. Nike, I would bring back the Tiempo Legend 5 Elite or the Tiempo Legend 4 Elite in K leather, like 100% remake. Probably Tiempo Legend 5, because it would be freaking awesome. Yes, I know all of you are screaming in the comments, Noah, your favorite boot is the Hypervenom Phantom 3. Yeah. But like, we want leather from Nike. So I don't want none of this bullshit. Puma, probably the Evo Power Vigor or the Evo Power 1.2. Like the Dragon ones that I have, I think those are absolutely sick. So those would be cool. From Adidas, I would do, we've had so many remakes and they've really already done the remakes that I want, which are this one, and then the two with the Carbitex inserts. So I think Adidas has already covered their stuff. Mizuno, we already got a Wave Cup remake, which was the Wave Cup SS Japan. So that would have been my answer. What else am I missing? Skechers hasn't been around long enough. Asics, it'd have to be a Japan variant of something because the rest of the Asics football world hasn't been around for very long. What am I forgetting? Puma, Mizuno, Asics. New Balance, I would love to see. What do I want to see? They haven't been around that long either. Damn. And their early boots were not very good. So probably nothing from them. I mean, now that they've stopped making the Tequila high top, like a remake of the Tequila high top, I guess that'd be kind of cool. Or an all K leather, like those gold K leather 442s. That would be dope. And then what else am I forgetting? Under Armour. I would do, what was it called? The glove fit material. You'll have to let me know down in the comment section below, but I would love a remake of those. Those were crazy. They weren't the Shadow. They were like the clone, Under Armour clone something. Anyway, those would be cool. So yeah, that would be kind of my, those would be the ones that I would go for. And if I'm forgetting any of the major brands, New Balance, I guess Umbro. What would I take back from Umbro? Maybe like an OG 6-stud soft ground Speciale. That would be cool. Yeah, something like that. Great question, though. Okay, Jose asks, what is your verdict on the Predator LZ after using them for a while? So I have the pink Predator LZs, which I absolutely love. It's a hybrid touch upper. You've got the lethal zones. Is it a sprint frame traction, which is awesome. Those are a great pair of football boots. I actually wore them in training a couple times for Flower City back in 23. They've lasted a really long time. I wear them occasionally, and they're great, and cannot speak highly enough about them. They remind me a lot of like, it's sort of like the modern day Predator Elite 25. This era of Predator is like the focused and more Predator version of what the LZ was trying to be, which is really cool. But yeah, awesome football boot. Procop asks, do you think grip boots are better than boots without added grip? No, I don't think either is better than the other. I think it's just a personal preference. I think some grip elements are better than others. I think failed grip elements are things like the Under Armour Magnetico 4, which is just like a little strip that goes right along the lacing system area, and it just doesn't do anything. Elite level grip is stuff like GripKnit, which is amazing, and the new Predator has great grip as well. So I think it's really up to the personal preference. I don't really think one is better than the other necessarily. Last question from Blessing. I'm a 19-year-old playing in South Africa's 4th division. I'm currently struggling with expressing myself and feeling like my teammates. I feel like my teammates make it hard. How do they make it hard? How do you deal with constantly being made to feel like you don't know what you're doing? When I make a mistake, players yell, but when others make a mistake, there's no reaction. I constantly feel belittled by my teammates, but outside the club, I'm doing well. I can't leave yet because I'm adjusting to the level until I get a better club. Okay, so what that tells me first is that you are externalizing your problems, and that's a big issue. You are the common denominator in your life. You are the one thing that stays constant in your own life. So I am a proponent of the blame. Power follows where the finger points. If you are going to blame all your teammates for yelling at you for making a mistake, that's on you, dog. As soon as you say, oh, my fault, I'll do better next time, you have the power to change. But if you're going to blame your teammates and you're going to come to me respectfully, this is me telling you, I'm giving you tough love here. I think you're blaming people and it's probably your fault. And that's okay because you can fix it. And that's the beauty of it. So I understand being in a new team, and I understand being in a team where you want to get to the level and you want to move on and you want to get better and better and better. All that's going to help that is you taking action and you taking responsibility for your actions. So the biggest pieces here is stop blaming your teammates. If you make a mistake, put your hand up. Even if you don't think you've made a mistake, put your hand up, be like, hey, my bad. You didn't get there. All good. I'll be more accurate next time. Take extreme ownership, because I am a really bad person to ask about why my teammates aren't being nice to me, because I've been in scenarios that are, I promise you, far worse than that. I understand where you're coming from, but it is really, really tough for me to not just be like, take responsibility for your own actions. And if your teammates are yelling at you, but not at other people, really what that says to me is teammates are yelling at you and at other people, but you only notice yourself. Because there's no way, I have never once been on a team where a single person is singled out like that, ever. There's always more than one. It's always 2 or 3 guys that are yelled at a little bit more. But you know what? The ones that succeed are the ones that gain the most respect, because they go from being all like, oh, my teammates are being shitty to me, to, nope, I'm taking responsibility for myself and my play minutes. I'm going to get better. I'm going to work in the dark, meaning I'm going to work outside of training. I'm going to do my own thing. I'm going to be focused. I'm going to be relentless, and I'm going to go after this stuff. And also, there's some pretty easy ways to befriend teammates. Like when you get to training, dap everybody up, high five everybody, shake their hand, shake the coach's hand, be friendly with people. Even if they're going to be an asshole on the pitch, just do it. Because over time, friendliness like that, you're gonna notice that people are gonna stop moaning at you and stop bitching at you, because they're gonna be like, oh, that guy, like, I know that guy, he's a homie. And I'll give him positive encouragement. People suck sometimes. That's just the nature of life. Welcome to it, man. You're 19. Like, come on, like, get after it. So for me, I understand where you're coming from. And also, it's not the worst scenario to be in. You are undervalued, clearly. And it may not be as harsh as you think it is. But the point is, you got to take responsibility for your own actions. So that's my thing. Hope you guys enjoyed that week's episode. If you did, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Share this episode with somebody who you think could be valuable for. As always, be awesome. Take care. I'll see you guys in the next video.